Hello, I am Devina, and hello to all of you very bold, beautiful, brilliant, and evolving souls. Today's topic is freeze versus flop. And I feel like sometimes these are confused. So I really wanted to do this video just to hopefully clarify information. And even though I'm not an expert, I think I've got a fairly good sense now of the difference between the two. Um, So obviously both of these are responses to threat. This is what our nervous system does in order to try to protect us. And these are both automatic and involuntary. So it's not your choice. It's just what your body did at the time of the trauma in order to try to, yeah, protect yourself. And now as you're recovering, of course, you're going to find yourself in these states of dysregulation, in of course, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and flop. So the similarities between the freeze and the flop is that they are both a state of immobility. And so I think that's why they can often get confused because they're both similar in that way. The difference is like in freeze, you're still in the high alert mode. So again, if you picture that kind of, the tiger coming towards you and you try to freeze so it doesn't hopefully see you, or maybe you try to camouflage yourself in with the tree. But you're still on high alert. You're ready to go back into the fight and the flight at any moment. So it's called a split response. It's both the hyper arousal and the hypo arousal combined. So you're immobile, but you're ready for action. Whereas the flop is completely the hypo arousal state. So you are in a state of that is called shutdown, collapse, fold, also feigned death. So it's almost like you're just at this point, the tiger has seen you, and you are just going to like numb out your body so that when it eats you, you don't feel it. So this is also something that happens is your body will numb out. Again, involuntary, not your choice. So have a lot of compassion for yourself. Um, so back to the state of freeze. So again, this is sometimes called the camouflage state. Um, and it is the split response. And often the underlying feeling is, I feel like I'm gonna die. And if I listen carefully to my inner child around my heart area, if I just take a moment to listen, I will hear that voice, I feel like I'm gonna die. When I'm in flop, it's actually, I feel like I wanna die. It's a different feeling and it's very subtle, but I've become attuned to like sensing both of these in these states. Um, so freeze, it's your body is tense. You're in a rigid state. Your muscles are tense. You're like paralyzed by the fear, like that deer in the headlights. Your eyes are like this. And actually, I'm in freeze right now. So if that's what my eyes look like, that's why. Deer in the headlights. Um, some people have the feeling of feeling stuck, like you can't move, or even when you do try to do things in your day, it just feels very stiff. It just feels like getting things done. You don't have a sense of flow. Um, you may be unable to think clearly or concentrate. Um, in being indecisive, I think is really common with this one, or it is for me. Feeling like every decision is like life or death. And this is because in our childhood, this is what we experienced. We constantly feared the abandonment. We feared that any wrong move was going to lead to rejection and abandonment. So this is why we become so indecisive. And it can just be a general sense of overwhelm, like even just doing simple daily tasks. Again, it feels very stiff, kind of robotic. Um, and you're definitely not relaxed, right? You're in a sense in a state of terror, dread, anxiety. You might feel the terror in your shoulders or your neck or your back. Different people feel fear in different areas, but you will feel that tension in your body. Um, so again, yeah, it's a sense of often a lot of shame is with this too. Shame is always there for me, feeling, yeah, worried that you're going to get something wrong or make a mistake. And so this could be a lot of perfectionism also going on here. I'm sorry, this construction. I hope that's not too loud. Um, and so yeah, this is the state of where you're in the hypervigilance. You're on guard. You're, looking for any sign of threat or danger. You might find yourself being judgmental. Um, just a general sense of on edge, can't relax. Um, and you might feel even like you're sort of trapped in this sort of state of immobility. Did I miss anything there? I think that's all I wrote here in my notes. So now moving on to flop, which again is also immobility, um, but a shutdown numbness. Um, so the body here is now the muscles there's a low muscle tone. So your body's like floppy. That's why it's called flop. Your muscles are loose. And it can seem like you're relaxed, but you're actually not. So it can be tricky because you think, oh, I feel so peaceful and relaxed, but actually you're just numb, right? So it's important to see that distinction. Um, in this case, the shallow breath, um, your breath can seem like it's almost non-existent, just hardly breathing, um, blank stare. Like you might find yourself just sitting in a chair, staring at your wall, and you can't do anything. Even just trying to get up to do anything is maybe really hard. And those are the times where maybe you're just like mindlessly like scrolling something, just like it's a real zombie-like feeling. In this case, you are going to be detached from your body and probably very dissociated. And as I mentioned, numb. So you really can't feel your body. Um, and this can be a little bit, I don't want to say kind of dangerous in a way, because you might be unable to recognize your bodily cues. You might be unable to recognize that you're hungry. You might be unable to recognize that you're hot or cold. And often in this sense of flop, this mode of flop is you're very sensitive to cold. So when I'm in flop, I know that I'm like turning on my heaters in the winter and I'm putting on sweaters and, I just want to be warm and cozy. So, but also pain. So you'll have a lower pain threshold. So, if you've hurt yourself, you may not even notice that you've hurt yourself. Um, so important to also keep that in mind. Um, And executive functioning is very impaired in this state. So if you feel like you're just a useless zombie, it's not your fault. It's just because well, I think it's the frontal cortex or whatever. The executive functioning has shut down. The ability to like plan and yeah, make decisions and set goals and work towards them. All of that is just like impaired or completely shut down. Um, this is a state of full submission. So you might be fawning in the freeze state. I definitely fawn when I fawn any state I'm fawning, but in flop, it's just like full submission. It's like you've just tossed all of your boundaries, needs, everything goes out the window, and you're just in this fully compliant state where you will just sort of agree to anything. Um, you could have really weak boundaries, maybe no boundaries or very few boundaries. And you might have a real sense of vulnerability. It might be hard to go outside. And so that's why we isolate a lot in this flop state. You might also isolate in freeze, but probably even more so in flop. And it might be hard even just to like walk out the door or like go around the block or do something very simple, you know. So it's important to hold that with a lot of gentleness and realize that you feel vulnerable because you know that that natural state of fight and self-protection is not there. So you like I try not to interact with people in this state because I know my boundaries are not going to be strong, or I have to be very aware, like, okay, I'm gonna really like just set the intention, like I still have the right to set boundaries, you know. Um Feelings in this state are, it can be really, really dark. And as I said, it sometimes feel like I want to die. It's when the suicidal thoughts, ideation can come up. It's a real sense of depression, hopelessness, helplessness, despair. And all of these feelings can give you a sense of being tired and exhausted. And you might not be actually physically tired. It might just be emotionally tired because of all this, um, these heavy, heavy feelings. And shame can be so intense in this flop state. And that's why you have the full submission. You literally just feel like a worthless piece of crap. And and the self-blame can be there as well. So just important to have just awareness of all this. And even though you don't feel the terror, it's there. It's like an underlying kind of terror. Like you're not, as I said, sometimes it might seem almost like you're relaxed because your body's so like just floppy. But if you look more closely, you realize, no, I'm not actually feeling safe and relaxed. It is the underlying terror is there. So, did I cover everything there? I think so. Yes. Okay. So, that is the difference between the freeze and the flop. And maybe I'll do a whole nother video in terms of what do you do when you're in freeze and flop? How can you manage or, you know, deal with these kind of states? I hope this has been clarifying for you or just validating in some way. And I'm wishing you always many, many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And I'm Devina at Boldness Blooming.